Throughout history, people have suffered on, enduring conditions that went unrecognised and untreated. Most disease was met with the prompt assassination of a goat, or similar, which of course shows limited efficacy as a treatment for serious pathologies.
You feeling any better?
No, I feel horrible.
I was hoping you'd feel better by now.
Why?
I need to talk to you about Gary.
As in, the goat? My Gary?
Yeah, Gary.
What the... Oh, not again. That's the last thing I need. After the hiccups last month, there's nobody left. You can't keep doing this.
Even in modern times, post-war PTSD was dismissed as weakness, endometriosis labelled a psychiatric problem, autism misunderstood, and celiac disease, well, more bread for everyone else. Underdiagnosis was always the problem. Now though, we have direct-to-consumer advertising of treatment as a service beginning to blur the lines between finding people in need and creating a need in people. We have a growing inclination to pathologize everything and seek fixes to even quite normal features of the human condition. Now, we're entering the era of overdiagnosis, but here's the first bit of nuance, and it's really a testament to how weird things can get when we commercialize medical interventions. Despite the recent increase in TRT uptake, online therapy, ADHD medication, many of the associated conditions remain underdiagnosed. To understand just how we got to a place where we're at risk of simultaneous over and underdiagnosis, we need a crash course in online advertising. Two factors determine the success or failure of a marketing campaign. First, the quality of the ad itself. How good is it at convincing people to buy? Second, who sees the ad? This is what's called targeting, and it's the reason it feels like your phone's listening to you. Ad placements online can be highly specific, not just age, gender, location, but which other ads someone has engaged with, if they recently returned from a holiday, or if they have an anniversary coming up, which does feel like a mild encroachment on your emotional privacy. The advertiser's job is to get really good at refining this targeting so that each dollar in ad spend goes towards putting ads in front of the people most likely to buy. And here's where things get hazy with treatment as a service, because the people most likely to purchase online therapy or a TRT subscription aren't necessarily the same people most in need of those treatments. They're just the people most likely to believe they are. TRT is intended as a lifelong treatment, but how many people do you think stop in the first year? The range is broad, but in the US, it can be as high as 85%, which I think suggests maybe there's a problem, possibly because 6 out of 7 providers will offer TRT to someone with normal test levels. But the US is really the Wild West. In the UK, we have things called regulations that make advertising prescription drugs illegal, which feels like a good thing. But here's the workaround. Advertising the tests and assessments that can lead to prescribing drugs is perfectly above board. And that's a good thing if done responsibly. I just don't think it always is done responsibly. I'd been approached to advertise these tests, and although I did previously decline, I've since done some research and I think I'm going to go for it. Have you been experiencing low mood and irritability, anxiety, fatigue, poor sleep? Well, it's probably not because you've got low testosterone. Sounds like a Tuesday, man. You're probably a human experiencing the usual stresses associated with being alive. But if these do feel excessive and beyond what's normal for the peaks and troughs of everyday life, you should get your levels checked with us, because that might be the cause. I mean, still probably not, because these are really common symptoms, most often with other causes, and even if you do get a low test reading, it's more likely to be the anxiety and poor sleep causing the low testosterone, particularly if it's borderline low, which we will still consider for treatment, by the way, provided you mention some of those symptoms. Also, since these are so common and getting a low reading is also not uncommon, there is a good chance that even if you do have both, like, they are entirely coincidental. I mean, that's probably why the American College of Physicians don't recommend TRT for non-specific symptoms like fatigue and anxiety. Actually, these symptoms are the ones least likely to be resolved by TRT. Really, the best indicators of low test and the ones most likely to see improvement are those linked to sexual dysfunction, low libido, erectile dysfunction, things like that. So I suppose I should probably be leading the advert with those, to be honest. But I mean, the more general ones are just more relatable, aren't they? Also, it's a bit awkward talking about dicks. Just before I go, I promise the ad's almost over and I'll get back to the video. Even if you don't have symptoms, it's still worth getting a test because 25% of people will get a low reading and most of those don't have symptoms. So basically 1 in 4 of you can be eligible if you just self-report some. You know, if you think it sounds like a good idea and want to try it out, or just because you've actually interpreted something vague like irritability as a sign that you genuinely benefit. Anyway, use my code, get a discount on your blood test. Obviously, it's intended to be lifelong treatment, but the discount's just on the test. The blood test, not the testosterone forever. That's on you, man. Which is fair. All right, I apologise for just the abrupt nature and how unpolished this clip is going to be. I'm going a bit off plan here, but I was just editing the video and I did something I had to share it because it's just absolutely crazy to me, right? So I just went through and did the ADAM test, which is supposed to assess your symptoms and tell you if it's likely that you have low testosterone and therefore if you should get a blood test, right? I was actually on the Optimail website and then I was redirected to Manual. I don't know if they're the same company under different names or affiliated or what, right? So I went through a few times. Each time I responded yes to fewer and fewer symptoms, just testing out really. And on the final run through, I responded no to every single symptom I was asked about, bar 1, which was feeling sad and grumpy. There was no follow-up question or extra detail about, you know, the severity or the frequency or the duration of said sadness and grumpiness. That was just it. It was that broad, that vague. Now, I fully expected off the back of that, my results come back and it to say, based off the fact that you've responded no to all symptoms bar 1, which is something that's extremely common, vague, broad, highly subjective, you probably don't have low testosterone. It's probably not worth getting a test, right? I stand corrected because apparently my responses, that's one single response, indicate low testosterone. Now, I don't know what definition of indicate is being deployed here, but let me put this diplomatically, right, in a way that I can't get sued for. I am skeptical that the word indicate here is being used to denote a high probability. I think that's fair to say, right? And you know, even if I just get a test and levels come back normal, right? No harm done. But it just made me think, like, how many people are getting unnecessary tests, are paying for unnecessary tests off the back of something that generally is not regarded as a standalone symptom as an indicator of low testosterone. I'm safe in saying that. Do you think that's interesting? I think I've got most of my point across there, but there's maybe the most important stuff left. People advertising can act benevolent and claim to care about raising awareness of an underdiagnosed issue. And here is the difficult nuance we have to grasp. That can be true. I probably believe most of them. I'm not accusing anyone of overtly bad intentions or breaking the law, and I definitely don't think making money is a bad intention. I just think it's all a little bit too fucking casual.
It gives you a few symptoms, which can be fatigue, low energy, and in my case, poor sleep. If you're feeling low energy, struggling to focus, or just not feeling like you're yourself anymore, it might not be the weather, it could be low testosterone.
I think focusing your ads on general, common, and highly subjective, vague shit like not feeling yourself or poor sleep, and all the symptoms that are least likely to be indicative of and least likely to be resolved by TRT, while skipping the ones that are most likely to be indicative of and resolved by TRT, is being a bit fucking casual. And for clarity, these are the symptoms, like not feeling yourself is a symptom now, that were focused on in the ads that were sent to me as examples of previous YouTube collaborations, as if I was meant to use these as a guide. So it is deliberate. See, spreading awareness is good when it's thorough and accurate. If it's anything less than that, it can be a double-edged sword which turns into active encouragement. Now people see TRT as something that's going to give them some kind of edge and boost their energy and focus and get them beyond normal, even if currently at normal. We have people actively trying to manipulate the test to get a low reading because they know once they get past that barrier, it's pretty easy to just self-report some symptoms. And the people who can't get it legitimately will find a way. There are lots of factors contributing to all of this. Sloppy advertising is just one of them. Anyway, now I'm going to do a real ad. I'm going to stick to actual facts in it as well. This whey protein contains no artificial colours, sweeteners, thickeners or flavours. It's from grass-fed cows, which usually means dairy products have a better fatty acid profile, but since most of the fat is stripped out, the benefits when it comes to whey will actually be minimal. It is better for the cows though, if you care about cows. It's undenatured and filtered at low temperatures, which doesn't change the protein content or amino acid profile, so won't help you build more muscle than the denatured alternative. But there are some other benefits to more gentle processing methods, which I'm just going to link because if I describe it, you might think I actually understand the biology of it, and I don't. It's also lab tested for various contaminants. I think the flavour is quite nice, actually really impressive in the context of the minimal ingredient list. Not the main selling point for me though, really, because, you know, I'm not 7 and don't need real cereal pieces in my protein, but I have it and enjoy it basically every day. There's a Black Friday sale and links in the description. You can actually put my code on top of any sale price. Oh, the brand does lots of other stuff as well. These are like some of the things I use on the daily. Let's get back to the video. Feels a bit weird to put an ad here whilst I'm complaining about ads, but I hope the difference is obvious. The targeting issues aren't unique to TRT. It's the MO of many online health platforms. ADHD clinics have used terms like fidgeting, distractibility, and poor concentration to advertise assessments. Assessments in which 3 private clinics diagnosed a journalist with ADHD after the NHS evaluation concluded he didn't have it. Online therapy providers pick the most trivial of everyday experiences like having a bad day or relationship challenges and pitch them as something you need therapy or counselling for, which is arguably worse because they can be far more broad. There's no blood test to stop 75% of people signing up, but arguably not as bad because the side effects of therapy you don't need tend to be generally better than the side effects of drugs you don't need. I mean, you may actually still benefit from therapy even if you don't need it from a clinical perspective. But some of these ads make out like you're supposed to aspire to a life with a baseline of 0 everyday difficulties, which is the unrealistic part.
Is there something interfering with your happiness or preventing you from achieving your goals?
Of course, if more people who need therapy, TRT, ADHD medication, weight loss jabs, etc. get them, that's a very good thing. Those things can transform lives. I just think it might be better if people who don't need those things don't get those things. Part of the reason these ads are so effective is just one downside to an otherwise overwhelmingly positive thing. It's the result of, how should I put this? A hijacking of real issues by people who want likes on Instagram. Don't get me wrong, it's fine to want likes on Instagram, it's just the lengths people will go to, which is usually the issue. See, once upon a time, there was a genuine stigma around many health issues. Take mental health as an example. Then some people started talking about it openly. Probably received negative backlash to begin with, but eventually broke that stigma. That was the positive thing. And they were rightly praised for risking social ostracism and exhibiting actual bravery. But some people, a few, noticed this praise and thought, I like it when people call me brave. And then pretty soon, talking about things like mental health struggles became not just a compassionate act of duty from fellow sufferers, but something that's almost trendy, and the term mental health began being used more and more broadly, which is fine if you want to use the term to describe day-to-day emotions, but then we need a new term for the clinical stuff, because there is a difference, right, between anxiety and an anxiety disorder. I've never talked about mental health, not because I don't think people should, but because I don't think people who know nothing about it should. I've only ever talked about stress and worry in the context of one's typical experience at non-dysfunctional levels. Yet, despite never putting myself forward as any kind of ambassador or expert on it, I'm asked to go on podcasts, make content, give talks, or answer questions about it. Why? Just because I have subscribers on YouTube? It feels like not an appropriate qualification. And this is the downside of the everyone should be a part of the conversation mantra, which has major upsides, of course. The fact is, lots of people, probably me, have absolutely nothing to contribute on many issues. And if I talk about basketball without knowing much about basketball, it's not particularly consequential. But with health issues, all the extra noise just serves to drown out the valid and valuable conversation. I used mental health as an example, but this hijacking is common across many issues. And the result is an overabundance of not always accurate discussion about everyone's perceived symptoms, which can lead to this tendency to see everything through a medical lens and pathologize even things that really aren't indicative of anything other than your existence. For the avoidance of doubt, because I don't want to be misunderstood, which is quite easy on YouTube, health awareness is good, right? But even overarchingly good things can be tinged with negative consequences. Anxiety-inducing hypervigilance, catastrophizing the mundane into signs of your impending demise is not good, and I think an avoidable burden. I spent some time researching this video because if I use a phrase like more likely, as in X is more likely than Y, it's important that's a statistically true statement. It doesn't make for riveting YouTube content to constantly flash sources up on the screen, but rest assured, although I still do offer opinions, when I make a statement of fact, I try to be thorough and make sure that that's verifiable. Otherwise, I'm just another person saying stuff on the internet. Anyway, in my research, I came across a term I hadn't heard before, cyberchondria. And it's pretty much exactly what it sounds like. Excessive distress caused by repeatedly searching for medical information online, often leading to misinterpretation of common symptoms as serious illness. Having read that, I immediately diagnosed myself with it. I then Googled it, diagnosed myself with it again, and got stuck in an infinite death loop. I guess the message overarchingly here is just be careful out there, folks. I mean, the main message is always
Jordy Lenny is my hero.